We're now going to continue with the next unit, which is entitled Places of Work. Before we go into any grammar,
What page?
the page is page 56. Before we go into any grammar, I want to go into the vocabulary. And again, the difficulty would be sitting, getting up, writing down words. But if I think it's necessary, I'll use the blackboard as well. I want to do the vocabulary and go into thoughts we already have done orally, and then if necessary, I'll write some on the board. Okay, on page 56, the first word that's listed translates as word opera. You'll notice the procedure of Mrs. Coffin. On the right side, you have the word unvocalized. More than not, she puts in brackets where the word is male or female. The letter nun stands for feminine, nekeva. The letter zayin stands for zachar, masculine. Then she has the word vocalize, which is what we should be looking at. And then on the left column, as you look at the page, is the translation to English. The word opera is how it seems to appear. However, the rule of Hebrew, if you see a mediot sere underneath the letter, try to emphasize that mediot sere. The mediot cholam always accented, the mediot kamatz accented, one place removed for the accent, and the mediot sere, not all the time, but a good deal of the time, draws the accent. So I see O, pe, ra, hit the second syllable, opera, rather than opera, opera. Hit the second syllable with the tsere. The word obviously sounds like an English word, sounds like a European word. The word is probably not Hebrew origin. It's a borrowed word in the language. But having said that, notice the singular, opera, with a kamatse. Notice the plural, operot, with a cholam tav, and that follows the rules of Hebrew grammar. Words ending with kamatse, segotav, kirikutav, shurutav are feminine singular nouns, and the feminine plural marker is cholam tav. So though the word opera is borrowed into Hebrew, it's translated or it is utilized as a feminine Hebrew word. Kamatse singular, cholam tav plural. Achar kach means afterwards. And this is one of the few times we see a Hebrew with a hyphen between two words. This is not biblical Hebrew. This is modern Hebrew. When you see question marks, see periods in the Hebrew sentences, see semicolons, and on and on. This is influence of European languages on the Hebrew Semitic language. Hebrew does not have a system like this at all. Achar kach, afterwards. The word boker and the word bikarim. If you look at the unvocalized Hebrew, boker is spelled with a vav after the bet. Look at the vocalized Hebrew, there's no vav there, it's a mediot cholam. And that's where a problem comes in. If you write unvocalized Hebrew by dropping the vowels that you see with the vocalized Hebrew, then the word boker will be spelled bet kufresh. And by itself, bet kufresh unvocalized can be read as the word bakar, cattle. So to make sure we don't confuse the word cattle with the word morning, we put a vav in the unvocalized Hebrew to create the O sound. But it's not a long O, it's a mediot cholam, boker. If it were a long O, then it would be boker. That's the problem when you have unvocalized and unvocalized rammed together. First, look at the unvocalized. And then that word bet kufresh. Many times I mentioned to you that word itself, the root, deals with multiple words. The word bakar, which is cattle. The word boker, which is morning. The word bikar as a verb, which means to visit. And before you know it, you create a story of a cattle being visited in the morning.
What do you say to visiting the sick? What's that called?
Visiting.
Visiting the sick in the hospital?
The same thing with bikur. Yeah, the word bikur means to visit. And normally the word to visit the sick happens to be one of the basic commandments, which nobody does anymore. I was a student. When I was a young man, my father had a pharmacy, a Beit Merkachat. We lived right next door to the Beit Knesset, the synagogue that we attended. And because we lived right next door, my father was also given the privilege of having the keys. We had to have them of the synagogue in case something should happen at night, etc. The name of that synagogue was Bikur Cholim. Let's just write down that word. Let's just get up a little bit and use the blackboard. The word Bikur. Bikur means to visit, means a visitation. The word Choleh is the Hebrew word for sick, masculine singular. Cholah, sick, feminine singular. The plural word Cholim is sick in the plural. The name of the synagogue, Bikur Cholim. It's a basic commandment, should be done every day. And that's what you have to worry about. Who is sick? Everybody's sick these days. Look at the word Bikur. It has dots all over the place. This Dagesh Kal, Bega Kefala begins the word. That Hirik underneath is a short vowel, closed by Dagesh Chazak in the Kuf. Second syllable has a Hirik under it, CV. Second syllable has a Shuruk. That Kuf is doubled. And the second syllable, CVC, long vowel closed situation, is accented. And what I'm trying to say is that any word that has the bet, the kuf, and the resh in it, there's some kind of contact. And so watch what I'm doing. Boker is morning. You're a cattle possessor, so you visit your cow, your bakar in the morning. And the verb to visit, we have not studied yet verbs, the so-called present tense, mivaker. Here's your bet, your kuf, the resh. And it goes on and on like this. And again, when you write without vowels, the two words boker and bakar look identical. That's why we make sure we insert the vav there to give you the sense of the O, boker. Okay, let me just stay here, remain standing. The next, and the word boker, well, one other thing about the word boker. If you look at the word boker, it looks like a singular noun. In fact, that was the example I gave of the O-E combination. And all singular nouns in the plural will have this combination, unless there are laryngeal letters involved. So boker in the plural is not bokerim, but bikarim. And you think of the word bakar, boker, bikarim, singular yelid yiladim, and bakar in the plural will be bikarim. Well, how about that? The plural of the word cattle, bakar, bikarim. The plural of the word boker, bikarim.
What do they call it when they give the offerings of the sheets of the parts of the field, the shavings, picarim, picarot, or the
I guess so. Yes. Don't know exactly what you're asking, but I think so. Bikarim. Bikarim is the plural of the word bakar. And bikarim is the plural of the word boker. Boker because it is a singular noun. So it's a shvada kamaskir then. And bakar is because you add a syllable im, and the kamaskir the bet reduces the shvana because bikarim. And how would you know the difference? You would not. It's in a sentence context that will tell you whether it's bikarim, cattle in the plural, or it's mornings in the word mornings in the plural. The next word, bayit, as I'm looking at it, bayit and batim. Well, let's take a look at that word. That word bayit I used already with the word Beit Cholim. The synagogue name of my childhood youth is the Bikur Cholim. Sorry.
that was in the Bronx.
In the Bronx on Prospect Avenue.
And what was Rabbi Kunin from? I thought he was from Brooklyn. What part
No,
of the Bronx is he from?
wait a minute. Rabbi Kuda is from the Bronx. Bronx is not a street. Bronx is a whole borough.
It's a borough. Where's he from?
Well, he comes from another neighborhood.
Well, which one?
I don't know his neighborhood,
Oh.
but he's from the Bronx. You want to talk about neighborhoods? The Bikur Cholim was on Prospect Avenue. A few blocks up Prospect Avenue was a very famous shul, which had the Chazan Moshe Oisha, as he was called. I forget the name of the synagogue, though. And then Fox Street was another street where Shalom Aleichem lives. At least he passed away on that street. All right, let's get back to Hebrew right now.
What a name, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, the Yiddish writer,
Oh, okay.
the most famous of the writers. His burial had 250,000 people in the streets.
Wow.
And Fox Street was a block away from where I was born and was raised.
Was it all Jewish at that time? Was it Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and Haitians? What was it like growing up there? Was it all Jews?
No. My block, when I grew up, had a Jewish synagogue. A few blocks away was a Jewish neighborhood. Blacks, one second, Afro-Americans or Negroes or blacks or whatever, people of color, all those terms were used, and Puerto Ricans made up the neighborhood that I was raised in. But inside that neighborhood were two major synagogues, the Bikur Cholim, led by a rabbi from the Ukraine, Russia area, where Yiddish was spoken all over the place there. And then there was another one, Torah spoke. Yeah, the other synagogue was Torah Moshe. We knew it as Torah Moshe. And the cantor there was also a Hollywood actor.
Who was that? Do you recall?
Well, I know him as Moshe Osher.
Oh, okay.
You had a number of cantors or cantor sons who made it to Hollywood. Al Jolson is one of them. The first talk he dealt with him. Anyway, back to our Hebrew right now. The word bayit. The word bayit is the singular of that word. Bayit means house. Bayit means home. Bayit is the absolute form of the word. The definite article will make it the definite state. Habayit, the house. And then you have the construct form, which is very difficult. You have to know for every word. And beit means house of, home of. So when you say the temple, you say Beit Mikdash, the place of the sacred sanctuary, Beit Mikdash. A synagogue is called Beit Knesset, house of gathering, which often gets mistranslated as a place of worship. And a Beit Knesset, a Beit Sefer is a house of the book.
Is that what they call parliament? What do they call parliament? The Jewish government. The
Jewish parliament is also called the Knesset. But the word Beit Knesset means house of the gathering. The word Knesset means a gathering, a get-together. That's all it means. In English, the word Knesset, for government purposes, is called a parliament. A Beit Knesset today gets confused where you go to synagogue. A synagogue does not mean a place of worship. It means a place of gathering.
And Midrash is a place of learning?
1 minute, when you want to talk about prayers itself, then you use another word, Beit Tefillah. But people don't call their Beit Knesset a Beit Tefillah, they call it a Beit Knesset.
Some have it with that name.
Or then in a Beit Knesset, basically you have talks that can be given, lectures that can be given, classes that can be given. A Beit Tefillah is strictly for prayer. And some synagogues have a Beit Midrash, where you go on and carry on with your studies.
Some of them have several of those.
Yes, of course. Or if it's a small synagogue, then the place of gathering becomes at different times during the day a Beit Tefillah, Beit Midrash, or whatever. But it's not unusual for your Beit Knesset, which is the largest room in a synagogue building, I guess, to have lectures that deal with Zionism, or politics, or debates. But you have the Sefer Torah there, you have this there, so you cover it over. Anyway, the word beit is the reason why I'm doing all this right now. She has the word bayit, that word beit. Then the plural of the word is batim. As I write out that word beit in the plural now. The word is batim. I double take the spelling of that word batim, and I notice that there is a dagesh in that particular tav. Okay. There's a dagesh in that particular tav. The question is, why is there a dot in that tav? The bet letter has a kamatz under it. It's not a short kamatz. If it were a short kamatz, then the dagesh in that tav would be dagesh chazak. This is an ah sound. And by proper spelling, the bet kamatz, if it's miyu kamatz, the tav letter should not have a dagesh in it. It should be CV, second syllable CVC. I'm going to double check that spelling again. If there is a dagesh in that tav on page 56 of the word batim, then in my opinion, it should be an error. If it's a dagesh chazak, then the kamatz on the bet should be an or sound, botim. That's how Ashkenazim would say the word. The word is batim. And because I see a problem with the spelling in the textbook, let me double check. I'm going to check the word by it. I see in my dictionary the word bait all over the place. All kinds of words where the bait word for which is a construct use of that word is used. It's interesting to note that the dictionary does not have the word by it. Yes, it does. It has the word by it, has the word batim, it has negation natav, which implies that the dagesh belongs there. It also suggests that the kamatz should be a short kamatz. There's a major problem with this. All right, let's make a special note of it. The word bayit in the dagesh of the bet is a dagesh kal, not a problem. The accent she shows you is over the short vowel, open syllable, unaccented, needs to be accented, not a problem. It's that word batim that presents now a major problem. As I write the word batim on the board, I originally wrote it, the bet with dagesh kal kamatz is medial, and this guy should be open, not closed. No dagesh chazak. I checked the coffin book, I checked the dictionary, and both of them have a dagesh in that tav. If that is so,
Should be doubled?
it's doubling the tav, but for what purpose? It will imply that this kamatz is a short kamatz.
So what would it be? It would be bat and then team?
Wait a minute now.
What would the vowel go?
Wait a minute. Let me just repeat myself since you aren't here. The kamatz is followed by dagesh and a tav. I said there's an error in the printed coffin book. I did not stop there. I checked the dictionary. The dictionary has the same spelling, a kamatz with dagesh and a tav. That would imply that that kamatz here is a short kamatz, and the tav has a doubling in it, and the second tav starts the second syllable, and the word should be pronounced as botim. The word is not pronounced as botim. It's pronounced as batim. And if that's so, there should not be a dagesh and a tav. The only explanation I can possibly give is that the original Hebrew singular is bayit. That yud letter somehow is behind the doubling of that tav. I cannot explain it from the point of view of grammar. This should be seen as a short kamatz. I don't think we say botim, we say batim. But I'm going with the spelling, and if that's so, then this is a very unusual spelling of a medial kamatz and a dagesh chazak following it, and there's no accent to get the dagesh out of to get the kamatz there. If you have a kamatz, it's either accented one place removed from it. If the medial kamatz is closed, then it should be accented. Fine. But then what do you do with the next syllable, which is the long vowel, the long kira closed? It must have the accent. Pronounce the word as batim with a dagesh in the tav, and the dagesh is unexplainable. It should not be there. Following Hebrew grammar. It is there according to the dictionary and the text. There must be some reason why. I cannot explain why, except that Yud, I don't know. That Yud is found with the long Kirik. I see that. But in the singular, it's a consonant. Okay, let's go on with the next words. Beit Kafeh, that word Beit means house of. It's the construct form of the word. And Kafeh, Kafeh, Kafeh is the Hebrew of the Segol. I would say Beit Kafeh, but Cafe sounds more like the English maybe. That Segol is an S sound. And then the construct Bate. Okay, let's just play with this a little bit. The word Batim. The word Batim, we're going to spell it the way it is found. With a dagesh in that top letter. So Batim is the absolute plural. Habatim would be the construct plural, would be the definite plural. Habatim. Let's just get this thing properly. And then Bate. Again, I leave the dagesh in that top. And if I have to syllabicate, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't do this because it's not a short kamatz. Leave it like that. CV. There's a problem with that word.
So Bate means?
Bate means houses of. So when you have a coffee house, it's Beit Cafe. When you have coffee houses, it's Bate Cafe. Notice that the plural is not the word coffee, but it's house of. Okay, the next word is a borrowed word. Cafe is a borrowed word. Bank, as I'm taking a look at the Hebrew there. Bank, the word for bank, bank.
Page 57.
Page 67 on
57.
top. 57, right. And then bankim will be banks. Liot is a verb to be.
Hey, talking about bank. Somebody told me Bank Lumi is not a good place to bank.
Okay.
What do you think?
Oh, well, Bank Leumi is probably Israel's most famous bank. My family, when they lived in Israel, when they were alive, banked in Bank Leumi, I believe. There are a number of banks in Israel. Some
Is
of them,
that an Israeli government bank or is it an independent?
I don't really know.
But this, my understanding is they give you service like they
Well,
do at the
well,
Israeli
wait
consulate.
a minute. There are a number of banks where the Israeli government has a specific bank to bank in. I don't know. It could well be. There was also a Bank Leumi or bank something like that in Encino, California, where it opened up many years ago.
Yeah, they have one on Wilshire, Bank Lumi.
Or they had one in Encino if they still have it there. Anyway, people will bank if they want the Israeli banks. In fact, there was an actual little video I saw the other day where you have a black man. He comes from Africa. He's a Muslim. He and his group march with Israel. He and his group are having a day where they're buying Israeli bonds. As far as they're concerned, they're more secure than United States bonds. These are Muslims for Israel, something that we need to emphasize. How much more so since he lives in the New York area and he lives in Pelham Parkway, which is my neighborhood, my last neighborhood before I came to California. He is a Muslim pastor, or whatever they call him.
Lehiyot, to be.
Okay, now we'll continue. Okay, I make a point because it's necessary. All right, the next word, liot. The verb liot means to be. Notice that you have the verb in the infinitive to be. That does not mean that the word exists in the present tense. The verb to be in Hebrew implies the verb is or are. Is or are does not exist as far as Hebrew is concerned.
Then how would they translate to be or not to be from Shakespeare?
Well, liot or lo liot, to be or not to be. You're not using the verb in the present, you're using the infinitive of the verb. The verb liot, when you have a verb preceded by the word to, that's called the infinitive. We'll be getting to verbs once we finish this vocabulary. And just let me go until we get there. Okay, the verb to be. Well, let me just, because this thing comes up all the time, let me just get something out right now and let it be official. When God is asked, what is your name? When Moshe Rabbeinu, our great teacher, our great prophet, the mouth of God, if you wish, at Sinai, what is your name? The translation in your English Bibles, I am that I am. Nothing can be more present tense than that word I, and then the verb I am. The Hebrew does not have that. The Hebrew has Ehyeh. The Hebrew then goes on, Asher. And then has that word Ehyeh again. You want a Hebrew lesson, you're going to get one. Ehyeh is the X. Asher is the equal. Ehyeh is the X. There is no response. I am that I am, or the Hebrew I shall be equals I shall be. There is no explanation.
It could be he's infinity.
It's not an infinitive.
No, not that in essence. That his essence is forever.
Just wait a minute. That's interpretation. The point is the future is given. Ehyeh. The verb to be in the future is possible. I shall be equals I shall be. I shall be that I shall be. Then there is interpretation. I'm not denying that. I'm saying that we don't have a verb I am in Hebrew. Your English can't handle I shall be that I shall be. So we try to say I am that I am. Because in the English sense, you have a sense of the so-called present. The Hebrew sense is God will be whatever Israel will be. God will be known whatever Israel is known by. That's how integrated God and Israel are together. The Ehyeh, the Yud He Vav He verb. And indeed, the four letters of the name of God is Yud He Vav He, has the letters of the verb to be. And how do you refer to God in a secular language? You use a definite article. The He letter, Hashem, the name. That word Shem by itself doesn't just mean name, it means essence. This is the name for Hashem. When we say Hashem, we pronounce it with a segol. Hashem is actually the word.
So it should be Baruch Hashem rather than Baruch Hashem.
You can say Baruch Hashem, but it sounds awkward.
But if it's grammatically correct, it's
people say Baruch Hashem, and maybe the reason why they say Baruch Hashem is they want to make a distinction between the name for Hashem from the word shame. So we have purposely the segol there and not the tzere. It should be a tzere. Blessed is the name, Baruch Hashem. This is what we do. You have a teaching. The teaching is now interpreted consciously or unconsciously. Nobody goes around Baruch Hashem. The Hebrew calls for that. And if we say Hashem, it's because Hashem stands out rather than being simply the word shame, which is so common. Mahashem, what's your name? Okay, there's so much that can be done with every word here, but just get a feeling that Hebrew is not just a language in a textbook. It has a history behind it, it has interpretations, it has contradictions from some people, and so it is. It's a language. The word limud and limudim, look at the translation, learning, instruction, study. And by study, it's what? Not the verb study, but the noun study. Look at the English studies. The root of that word, lamed mem dalet. That same root is the verb to study, lomod. But limud itself is more like a noun, learning. If I say learning by itself, I am learning Hebrew, or Hebrew learning. Where can you seek a distinction? Hebrew learning is learning as a noun. I am learning Hebrew is learning as a verb. It's the same word in both cases. It's the context that will help you out, maybe. And then that word, lamed mem dalet, melamed, the verb to teach, and on and on. Museon sounds like it is the word museum. The word is borrowed into Hebrew. Notice what Coffin does. With the word limud, she puts in parentheses the letter Zion, implying it's the noun that she's talking about. Look at the spelling of that word limud. With vocalization, it's a short kirkanit lamed, dagesh chazak in the mem. Without the vocalization, she writes the lamed with a yud that follows it. That creates the E sound. Museon, noun, masculine. Museonim, adjective yud mem, sign of the plural. The word mishpacha ends with a kamatzeh. And notice the plural, mishpacha, kamatzeh gets changed to mishpachot. The word for family, mishpacha, the surname. Shem prati is what your first name is. Shem mishpacha, your family name.
What about mishpahim?
What about?
Mishpahim.
Mishpatim maybe.
No, it's mishpatim. No, him. Mishpatim. Yeah, what's mishpatim?
A mishpat is a sentence.
Yeah.
Mishpatim are sentences.
How do you say families?
Family is mishpacha.
In plural?
Well, look, it says mishpachot. Okay, let's just look at this word. I'm surprised that question was asked. Not an issue.
I see it. I just had heard a different word.
Okay, just 1 minute. 1 minute. All right, 2 words come up right now. The word mishpacha. Notice when I write on the board, I always write with vowels. I always make sure my vowels are correct. And that word batim, I certainly wrote the way I thought it was supposed to be spelled, and then discovered there should be a dot and a tav, which I cannot explain. Back to the word mishpacha. That word mishpacha. Let's work with that word first. The syllables are consonant mem, short chirik, shva, and these are a letter which follows a short vowel. Tree is a shvanach. How do I know it's a shvanach? Look at the next letter. You see the pay letter has a dot in it. If this is a dagesh chazak, what vowel is it closing? There's no vowel underneath that shin. There's a shva. And that shva we treat as a shvanach to close the chirik underneath the mem. This is a dagesh kal. Underneath that is a kamatz. And then we have our last syllable, CV with a C in brackets. Last letter hey is a vowel marker. Mishpacha. The word is for family, from family. The other word that was used is mishpat. What the 2 words have in common are a shin and a pei. All right, the mem letter as a prefix. But the words are not related. Shin pei tet has nothing to do with shin pei het. This word mishpat comes from the root to judge. Meshofet. Meshofet is a judge in Hebrew. Mishpat is a judgment. Mishpat is also the word for sentence. Let your mind think for a moment. A sentence and judgment. And when you write a sentence, a regular sentence of a composition, they all seem to be related. Maybe the original writing of sentences was a judge making a declaration, and then it was eventually written down. That was your first type of sentences, a declaration. Later on, when we had writing coming in, than sentences, with any kind of sentences. Think about that. When you write something for computers, make sure your spelling is correct if that's what you want to convey. You're passing judgment. And mishpacha has nothing to do with that. And then the plural, mishpat, is masculine in appearance, adjective mem, mishpatim. Mishpacha is feminine, it's mishpachot. And then when it comes to names, when it comes to filling out names,
But what's the difference between mishpahim and mishpachot? One's feminine, one that has a masculine ending?
mishpachim, are you confusing mishpatim? Mishpatim is one thing.
Oh.
Mishpacha is mishpachot, it's not mishpachim.
Well, tell me what it means exactly. The
Okay,
difference in the meaning.
I'm not sure what you have in mind.
Oh, forget about it.
A
Just
mishpat, a mishpat is a judgment. A mishpat is a sentence.
And then family?
Mishpacha.
Oh, okay.
There's no thing called there's not a word called mishpachim.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was mispronouncing it and I got the
Well,
word
well,
confused.
maybe so.
Thank you.
Not a problem. All right, there was another thing I wanted to put on the board right now. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
we're at
Well, I'm not sure.
mishpachot.
Well, one second. Let my mind think a little bit. Okay, the mishpacha. Oh yeah, Shem Prati. All right. When it comes to filling out a document in Hebrew, the word shame, and then you will have the qualifying word. Shem Prati means individual name, and Shem Mishpacha is a family name. Mishpacha you share with other members of the family. The Prati word is individual. And that's it. Shem Prati Baruch, Shem Mishpacha. What is it? It's a name. All right, as we continue with words, the word Sifriya. The word Sifriya translates the word for library. That word Sifriya is associated with the word Sefer. How many times have we gone into that word Sefer? Let's go over this again. It's important that the review is done. Salah Peresh, Sefer. Sefer is a second noun, the plural is Sefarim. From that word, Sifriya. Notice of organization, syllabication, CVC, Shvanach. The Resh has a chirik. The chirik is closed by Dagesh Chazak and Yud, CVC. And the last syllable is CV and C in brackets. And then that same root has the word to count in it, has the word to write in it. A sofer, for example, is a Hebrew scribe, whereas a secular writer is called a mechaber. The word mechaber writes compositions. The word chaber, chet bet resh, is to connect one with another. Hence the word chibur, Hebrew word for composition. A mechaber is a writer of narratives, stories, short stories, but secular in nature. Whereas a Hebrew scribe who writes the Torah and mezuzot, parchments on the doorposts, or the tefillin, the phylacteries, is of a different type of writer. His point is to count. The same word to count is the same letters as the word to write. And so does Sofer. And what he writes is not a regular book. He writes a Sefer Torah. He writes a parchment for the mezuzah. He writes a tefillin that are worn by a Jew for everyday prayer. Then you have a thing called the Sfira. Sfira is how the Ashkenazim say it. Sfira. The count period from Passover to Shavuot. All these words have that samak, the pei, the resh. And then you have a one who does a haircut, a sapar. What does haircutting have to do with counting? I don't know, unless they count the hairs that they cut off your head. But it's interesting that one word, sifriya, can give you all kinds of words with the shorish of samach, the pei, and the resh. As we're looking again, we're now at the word erev on page 57. Look at the word erev, look where the accent is. It's a go, short vowel, open syllable, accented. Look at the plural aravim. Why is it not erevim? And again, your knowledge of segulate nouns needs to come into play right now. Repetition is not to impress you. It is to emphasize a learning lesson in language. You need to go over things again and again and again. The word erev has the same combination as the word yeled. The plural of the word yeled is yeladim. The plural of the word erev should be iravim. But the ayin letter cannot take a shana. In its place, the hadapatach aravim. And then what about the word erev by itself as a noun? Again, 3 states to every noun you see. Erev means evening. Ha-erev is the evening. Notice my pointing of the hay is with a kamatz. The rinse letter ayin cannot be doubled, so the pata becomes a kamatz. And then the construct happens to be the same form as the absolute erev. This word erev is either evening or evening of. See how complicated this can be?
Like Erev Shabbat,
Erev Shabbat.
Friday night.
Erev Shabbat.
Is it coming in of Shabbat, right?
It sounds like Friday night.
Yeah.
Let's take the plural now. Erev Aravim. Watch now the Hebrew grammar. Ha-Aravim. Arve with a patach. In other words, go back to Aravim. The kamatz underneath the resh goes to shvana. The accent is on, this again is a construct, evenings of, so the emphasis is on the next word. So the kamatz of Aravim of Jerusalem shvana. And the ve means of. So that's a cluster right there. You break it by pointing the eye with a patach. That's the way it goes. Arve. The shva cluster, hatapata and shvana. And this is like, it's like an imposed vowel. And you treat this as what, a shvana? I'm saying arve. I'm sounding just like a shvana. I'm almost sure that's the word. Arve, spelled with a patach, not with a hatapata. All right, stuff that's not presented, but it's good to know this stuff. The word Erev, evening. The next word, she puts in brackets the word Beit. That word Beit is meant to be house of, or you can say it's just simply called Noah by itself.
Bait. So there's bait and there's bayit.
No, Bayit is house. Beit means house of, home
Oh.
of. The question is, why does she put that in brackets? The answer is Israelis will either say Beit Kol Noah, or they don't bother with the word Beit, they'll say simply Kol Noah. And Kol Noah is the word for a movie house or movies. And the word Beit in the construct plural, Batim becomes Bate. The question is, where does that word Kol Noah come about? Again, every word has a history behind it. That word Kol Noah, I once mentioned in the class hour. Let's mention it again. The talkies of American movies were before 1927. But the year that's given to the first real great talkie movie was Al Jolson's. I forget the title. What was the title? Something with voice in it. A cantor's boy? No. Al Jolson was the son of a cantor. I forget the title, but that was said to be the first successful talkie. A talkie is a voice, and the voice was moving. It was no longer still pictures. That's the origin of the word movies. It dealt with the voice that was heard, not with the pictures that were seen. And then the word Noah. Look at the word Kol, CVC, long vowel closed syllable, and CVC with a stolen patak on the iron. Stolen pataks are found under last letter ayin or last letter het if preceded by a vowel that's frontal. Kol Noah. The next word is the word concert. Again, look at that word. Concert is a borrowed word. Should you not pronounce it as konitsert? In other words, a long cholam following the kuf should be an open syllable. If you close it with a nun, as I said, the word concert, should the accent not be over the first syllable? And the way out of all this, if a word is borrowed into Hebrew, you don't have to follow the rules of Hebrew grammar. I say concert with the accent really on the second syllable. But the word is a borrowed word, so it's not an issue. Concertim will be the plural. The next word is also strange, kupai. The word kupai. And how do you deal with kupai? And then the word that follows is the word cafe. All right, let's get down several words right now. What Edna does is she gives us a lot of borrowed words. These three letters spell out the word kupa or the word cafe. When you vocalize it, there's no problem. Kupa. This is a word for a canopy, a kupa, a cashier box. The word cafe is the word for coffee. When you write without vowels, I presume the word kupa will be spelled this way. And cafe will be spelled this way. Now you have the word kupai. Watch my problem right now. Kupai is spelled this way. You have a patach, you have an aleph, you have a yud. What is the function of the aleph? There's no vowel there. Should I not write the word kupai like this with a yud? And what you have here is a strange spelling of a diphthong, kupai. or possibly the spelling is Aramaic. But kupai, as cashier, is no doubt related to the word kupa, which is a type of cashier's box, a kupa. She does not give you the word kupa. I can remember very distinctively my family made Aliyah. I was sent to Tel Aviv to better my Hebrew, 17-year-old boy at the time, and going to what I thought was a movie house. I saw a cashier's box, looked like a movie house outside, or cashier for a movie, and I saw those words. Or maybe I thought it was a coffee house. I just saw the kuf, the pay, and the hay. Anyway, cashier is a kupai. It deals with kupa. And cafe deals with coffee. Okay, cafeteria. Cafeteria, again, is a borrowed word. She has all borrowed words here, it seems. The word cafeteria, cafeteria. Again, when you have a borrowed word into Hebrew, Hebrew grammar is not followed. If we were to follow Hebrew grammar, where would the accent be with cafeteria? Edna doesn't show any accent. That means it's the last syllable. But cafeteria, 4 syllables to it. Again, I pronounce it cafeteria. I don't worry about the proper pronunciation of Hebrew. It's not a Hebrew word. The word sachakan and sachakanit, another word which may be Hebrew, but a word that's also confusing. Again, even with confusion with Hebrew as Hebrew, there's no explanation in the textbook. The word is given as it's given. But let me tell you what I see to be a confusion with that word for actor and sachakanit, the word for actress. Let's write down what she has. She spells it as sachakan. Spelling it that way, you have a CV, and then you have the second syllable, CINCVC. The question is, what do you do with a short vowel patach, open syllable? If that's indeed the spelling, then how do you deal with the irregular syllable, the patach on each sin? She doesn't explain that. Definitely the second syllable, CINCVC, the medial kamatz. If this were accent on the first syllable, it should be indicated. The other pronunciation of this word is sakhan. Notice what I just did. I close the patach with a chashvanach anitachet. And if that's the proper pronunciation, how come it opens up a sakhan? This is called secondary opening. Secondary opening is when a shvanach loses its silence and opens up to a sound that involves only laryngeal letters. And more than not, it's the letter chet. For some reason, that shvanach opened up to a sound, and that's why it looks like it's opened. Anyway, sachakan or sachkan in the feminine singular, the marker with a kibbutz tav. Sachakanit or sachkanit. The word te is a borrowed word into Hebrew. Sounds like tea. Te in Hebrew.
Isn't that high or chai? Or that's more like in Arab, with the Arabs and the Indians would say?
I don't know what Thai is. You mean Thai tea?
Yeah, chai.
You know what? Well, maybe so, but Hebrew, to my knowledge, is not Thai. It's te. And then you have teatron. Here's another word. Teatron is also borrowed. And when words are borrowed, they look like a Hebrew word when you write them out, and you treat them like a Hebrew gender. So te looks masculine. It's not a common te there. And teatron doesn't have the markers of feminine singular, so you choose masculine. And so you make the plural teatronim. A theater, a teatron, is live theater, plays. A movie house is a big konoa.
Okay, we'll wrap it up
Yeah,
for today with that. And then
on
we'll,
Thursday we start with the verbs,
on page 58.
right?
Thank you, Axel.